welcome to Paragon Solstice Transformation Series on YouTube. Today is our second episode, and today's guest is Margaret from New York here. She is a immigrant woman from Cameroon who has immigrated to the United States in 1996 and has done wonderful work within her career as a licensed clinical social worker and currently an adjunct professor at New York University. And I'm bringing her on to today's episode to talk about her journey, her experience as an immigrant in the United States, and just the things that she had to undergo through transformation and building resiliency as she's navigated the systems. Some of the work that Margaret is known for is around trauma-informed care, a lot of clinical work around program management and supervision, and she's done a lot of work overseas with Doctors Without Borders, but also with other organizations in Cameroon, South Sudan, and Kenya. So Margaret, thank you for joining us and for being part of these series. I mean, you're always doing amazing work, and I just want to make sure that folks are hearing about this amazing work that you continue to do every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Emmy. I'm really glad to be here on your program, and I'm looking forward to having discussions on resilience and transformation.
Thank you. So Margaret, just tell us a little bit about, what brought you to the United States when you came here in 1996, and how was that experience for you when you came to the United States?
I think what brought me to the United States was for me to continue my graduate studies, because back then we didn't have a graduate school of social work in Cameroon, and I was interested in being a guidance counselor for either a college or secondary school. Mm-hmm. So in 1996, I immigrated to the United States to go to graduate school and then go back to Cameroon and work in the school system there. And fast forward, this is 2021, I'm still here. So I'm kind of navigating between Cameroon and here at the moment. So that was my main purpose of coming to the United States of America. And when I got here, I decided to study social work because of the way the school system is set up here. It's not very holistic like what we have back in Cameroon. Because in Cameroon, when you send your child to a school, the teachers become part of the parenting cycle for that child. But here, I think when I arrived in the US and I started watching television and I saw how the parents were treating the teachers, it freaked me out. Because in Cameroon, I had taught elementary school, and the teacher is very well respected by the students, by the parents, because they view you as a co-parent to their child when they bring the child into the school. So seeing how the parents here were very negative about the teachers and going in not to support the child and work with the teacher, but to insult the teacher about what they were not doing for their child, kind of changed my trajectory, and I decided to study social work instead. That's how I ended up at NYU School of Social Work.
Wow. So when you were seeing this dynamic that the teacher was not being part of, I guess, the system of working with the parent and the child, what have you found important for you to kind of integrate so that that does happen, even though that's not happening in the system? But what have you used as your approach to try to integrate a holistic approach?
I think what I have done in my time working with, as a social worker, I always, especially when I was working with the foster care system, I think back then it wasn't something that people thought of to integrate the biological parent into the work, because the understanding by the social workers that I was supervising was that because the child has been removed from the home, therefore the biological parent is now the enemy, and this child now is under their protection. And when I worked at Inwood House, it was a challenge because these were young pregnant teens who were also becoming parents. And when you're at that stage, the next person that you want to be close with is your own mother. And then the system is telling you that no, you cannot be close to your mother because they've harmed you before. So I remember one of my staff resigning from her position as a social work clinician because of the ideas that I was trying to put out at that time. And I remember my supervisor at the time said that was so avant-garde because the system was not set up to understand it in that way. But me coming from Cameroon, everything is done communally in terms of the support that you build for a child, especially when they're expecting. So, I think the system has moved away from the strict, dynamics that they have about painting the birth parent as the bad person and then, trying to isolate the child from the birth parent.
So you're touching upon something that I'm hearing in your message is a sense of community and coming together and understanding that we're all in this together. And here you are, you're coming to the United States and you're coming from a country where it's very communal. Everybody's together, everybody's sharing that shared work and support, right? So here you are as an immigrant coming to the United States in 96, and you don't see that a lot in the systems. What kept you grounded? What was kind of your focus? What was kind of the things that you use to navigate in a system where you're seeing that it's not communal, and it's frustrating because you've come from this place where this is an approach that is so important and you've seen it work, and now here you are, it's not happening. What kind of helped you kind of navigate through that?
I think one of the things that helped me the most is my own values, given that I come from that cultural background. I have been able to integrate that in the spaces that I navigate. And when I came to the US in 96, I was working as a nanny. And, when I was working with the family, the guy is American and the lady is Swiss. And the Swiss culture, interestingly, is similar to that of Cameroon, where they kind of have that family unity. So working with her was kind of a way of just realizing that, oh, these are things that some people can do it, in spite of the fact that the culture here is more individualistic. But you have pockets of people that you can easily engage with and have those kind of conversations and share those shared values. So when you start talking to people about that, you find that there are more similarities than differences. And then, that's how I've been able to navigate, just having the conversation and sharing my own values that I bring into the spaces that I navigate and letting people know that this is how it operates for me and this is how it works and this is why it works when you implement it that way. Just being able to share that information with others.
So, finding these pockets, finding your tribe, finding people that have those shared values and commonality. It takes time to look for those types of people, places, communities, organizations, and things like that. Somebody who's coming to a new country, who's not familiar to what's going on, it's often hard for folks to navigate that uncertainty and trying to find community. What were some of the things that you found helpful to find that sense of community or finding your own tribe here in the United States?
What has been helpful is staying connected. I have a core group of Cameroonian friends that, I knew some of them back in Cameroon and some of them I've met here. So I kind of created my own family from those friends. So I created kind of a psychological family, and that was my source of support in spite of the challenges. I remember I've never been exposed to snow, and coming here in 96, the year of the blizzard, it was very interesting to try and navigate. So I had my friends that when I came home, we would talk on the phone about the experience of the day and, getting frostbite on my fingers and running hot water over it, trying to help cure it, and then magnifying the pain. That was very interesting to kind of talk about. And then, just finding people that have the same interests and commonalities that like you have, and having those conversations. I I think in terms of talking about resilience, that's what you do. You create your own psychological family that supports you. And that way it helps keep you grounded and resilient in all that you're doing. And in my work, I came to find a lot of those kind of people who were really interested in me as a person and not just someone that was taking care of their child. So they supported my idea of advancing my education. And I remember when I went into I didn't even know where to go to start my master's program. And I was taking the little girl that I was watching to the playground. And I happened to see a sign, NYU School of Social Work, in the little building. I was like, oh, there's a social work school here. I'll just go up and find out. So I walked in and I talked to the person that was there. I told him I was a nanny, but I'm interested in studying at the school. And I'm sure he was, you could see the surprised look on his face. And he was like, oh, do you have a first degree? I said, of course, yes, I have a first degree. I wouldn't be trying to apply for a master's program when I don't have a first degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think not, trusting what you have and walking into a space and bringing that with you is kind of what is helpful. Because if you are constantly thinking that you're not good enough, and then you're not going to be able to achieve what is it that you have. I believe that everybody comes into the world with this innate ability to achieve, and there is a purpose why they're here. So I'm always looking for what is my purpose and how can I promote that in a way that I can be able to open it up and reach and touch other people. So I think that's what is in the core of my own resilience.
That is beautiful, Margaret. And I'm so glad that you brought up these concepts and just helping folks understand that staying true to yourself, staying true to your values, remembering your worth, and understanding kind of what your guiding star is and not forgetting what that looks like. Even in the midst of chaos or blizzard, you always kind of always remembered for yourself what your why was, and why it was important for you to do that, and that it was something that it needed to happen, and that you were going to do whatever you need to do and whatever it takes for you to be able to achieve that. And something that you talked about, finding the community is like creating the community of like-minded individuals, right? Finding folks who are going to support you along your journey, right? Whether they're organizations, networking functions, people that you work with, but also even when you were going after certain positions, like you mentioned the nanny that you were working with, it was important for her to understand your values, right? That was not something that you were going to compromise for the sake of a job. And I think that, a lot of folks often struggle with that sometimes because, we all need a job, we all need income and things like that. And it's often hard for folks to kind of make that decision, and understanding how important that decision is into the livelihood and how you feel about your job, right? That you can still be who you are within your job and your position, and you're not letting go of that. And that's an important piece to that. What would you recommend for folks who are listening that they can do to not compromise their values, to not, to not hide who they are and what they bring to the table?
I think you have to start by understanding what your values are, and understanding the meaning that is behind those values, and then knowing how to apply them. I think what often happens here in most of the workspaces that people occupy is that the workspaces are not set up to support people that come into the system. So when you come into the system, you are required to be productive, but there is not enough support on the ground to help you be productive. So if you have your core values, and you know what helps you do your work the best, that's what you will bring into the space. And it's always a challenge because most organizations are not set up to understand that. But then you have to know where you draw the line. If you look at my resume, I've worked at several different agencies because when I start, I come with my value system into the work. And when I start doing the work in the course of time, if I realize that those value systems are not being respected, and then I'll just look for another job and see what really fits with what I bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I work from a I work from my heart and my soul, and I bring my whole self into the work. So for instance, if I have a supervisor that is not interested in my work, but interested in only seeing what I'm not doing right and not able to see all the other things that I am doing that are amazing and expanding the knowledge within that system. And then I always just know that this is not a good fit for me. And then I will just look for another job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what has been for me the evolution of my own growth as a social worker, not being able to compromise those values that I bring into the work, which I then tie in with the values of being a social worker, a clinician, or a mentor to others.
Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful. Not compromising your values and recognizing when it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And that you try and you work things on as much as you can, but if it just doesn't align, it's just not the right fit. And that can happen in jobs, relationships, commitments, things like that. It gets to a place where that if those values are not aligned, it's just not the right fit, and that's fine. Not every job is your job, not every organization is your organization, not every worker is your worker, not every client is your client. I think it's important to always think about that and staying true to yourself. So all this information that you just shared with us, Margaret, is so important for people to navigate uncertainty in new places, new spaces as an immigrant. Whether you're in the United States or another country and you're in a place that's new to you, that alignment is not the same, in terms of community. And I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much, Margaret. And I hope to talk to you soon. All right.
Very welcome. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. All right.